Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm so glad you came back for more education on menopause in general and breast cancer in particular. This is video number 359. It's the fourth video in our unit on breast cancer. So far in this unit, I've taught you about basic breast anatomy, how your breasts change over time, and the 4 breast hormones. So today I'm going to teach you about dense breasts and fibrocystic breasts. Now, most women have heard of dense breasts and fibrocystic breasts, but few women have a clear understanding of what they actually entail. This video will ensure that you know exactly what they are and what they are not. Now, Chapter 30 is the breast cancer chapter in both the first and second editions of my book. But in the book, I discuss dense breasts and fibrocystic breasts in the context of mammograms only. In this video, I'll discuss them in general. And later in this unit, when we get to the section on screening for breast cancer, I'll address them again in the context of their effect on mammograms. Now, as unprofessional as it may seem, I have taught you basic breast anatomy by likening your breasts to a salad. Here's the breast salad model that I built for you. In video 356, you learned that there are 4 anatomical structures that compose your breasts. The lobes are represented here by the lettuce. The glands are represented here by the broccoli. The fibrous tissue is represented here by all these bamboo shoots. And the fat is represented here by the fat globules. In video number 357, you learned that as you progress through your life, 3 of these 4 components take turns being the dominant component of your breasts. During puberty and your menstrual cycles, the fiber dominates. During pregnancy and breastfeeding, the glands dominate. So here are the glands during pregnancy, and here they are during breastfeeding. And then during menopause, the fat dominates. Well, for purposes of our topic today, we'll be focusing on puberty and menstrual cycles when the fiber dominates. So that's this breast salad model that we built. So I'm going to put that up here, and I'm going to label it as our pre-pregnancy breast. In last week's video, video 358, you learned that there are 4 breast hormones that take turns being in charge of what's happening in your breasts. Estrogen and progesterone dominate during puberty and your menstrual cycles. Prolactin and oxytocin dominate during pregnancy and breastfeeding. So, lots of things change. The topic of dense or fibrocystic breasts is only pertinent to puberty and menstrual cycles. So that means we'll be confining our discussion today to fiber as the anatomical component and estrogen and progesterone as the hormones, primarily. So how much do you already know about dense or fibrocystic breasts? You see, it's one thing to have heard of something. It's an entirely different matter to be able to explain it. My goal is to elevate you from having heard about something to being able to actually explain it. And I'll try to make it so logical that you have no difficulty in doing so. So let's start with some definitions. We have 2 things to address: dense breasts and fibrocystic breasts. And the very first thing you need to understand is how or if they differ. Dense breasts are breasts that consist of a high proportion of the fibrous tissue in comparison with the quantities of glandular and fatty tissue. So that's this here, lots of the fiber in our breast salad. Fibrous tissue is firm and heavy. It's tough and strong. And just as food containing fiber is filling, so is the fiber in your breasts. So dense breasts are full, firm, and heavy. So this is the breast salad that represents dense breasts. It's the pre-pregnancy breast salad. Fibrous tissue is what gives your breast their perky, sexy shape. This is why the fibrous component dominates during puberty and menstrual cycles. It's typical of young breasts before pregnancy. So dense breasts are a natural consequence of youth or of never having embarked on pregnancy or breastfeeding. 50% of women have dense breasts. Here's a photo depicting 4 degrees of breast density. The first breast is one that is not dense at all. It's all fat, which is yellow. The second one has areas of dense tissue that are just scattered. The pink parts represent that scattered, dense, fibrous tissue. The third one is called heterogeneously dense, meaning that it's about half and half fat and half dense fibrous tissue. And you see that there is much more of the pink tissue present in that one. And lastly, the fourth one is extremely dense, consisting of almost entirely dense fibrous tissue. And you can see that it's almost completely pink. Now these are ordered in this photo chronologically in precisely the opposite order in which they occur in life. It represents reverse chronology. Your breasts would only change from fatty to fibrous over the course of your lifetime if you were Benjamin Button. If you recall last week's video on the anatomical evolution of your breasts through the ages, you learned that instead of progressing from very fatty to very dense, your breasts do just the opposite as you move through the various hormonal phases of your life. They're dense when you're young and pre-pregnant, and fatty when you're old and postmenopausal. Now, let's just stop a minute. In what other contexts have you heard me talk about density? We discussed it in the unit on osteoporosis, where you learned that osteoporosis is a loss of bone density. We also discussed it in the unit on Alzheimer's, where you learned that Alzheimer's is a loss of brain density. Oh my! And here we are in the breast cancer unit discussing density yet again. Dense bones are good. A dense brain is good. So are dense breasts good? We'll be addressing that in later videos. For now, just notice this theme of density as an anatomical characteristic. From a functional perspective, dense breasts do not change anything about the way your breast functions. It's just a physical characteristic. Dense breasts versus non-dense breasts are a comparison similar to curly hair versus straight hair. Curly hair has more disulfide bonds than straight hair. Dense breasts have more fiber than non-dense breasts. One is not more normal than the other. They are just different degrees of a particular characteristic. Now let's turn our attention to the definition of fibrocystic breasts. Right away, you notice that the word fibrocystic is a combination of the word fibrous and the word cyst. The word fibrous comes from the fibrous component in our breast salad here. It's the same component that makes breasts dense. The other word, cyst, is what distinguishes fibrocystic breasts from dense breasts. A cyst is a sac-like structure or swelling that is not part of your normal anatomy. The word cyst merely describes the sac itself. We'll use this grape to represent a cyst. So the word cyst just means that there are some sac-like grapes present in an organ. It does not indicate what's inside the sac. So if I cut it in half, I have to find out what's in it. A cyst can contain fluid or blood or semi-solid material or even air. The majority of cysts contain fluid. This is especially true of cysts that form to create fibrocystic breasts. But how does this happen? Where does the cyst come from? If you look at my breast salad model here, you see that your breast consists of the 4 components, right? Lobes are the lettuce, glands are the broccoli, fibrous tissue is the bamboo shoots, and the fat is the fat globules. So how in the world do cysts develop? Well, I have discovered that hormones are the answer to almost any question of that sort. And I'm sure you're starting to realize that too. Any organ that responds to hormones will change in response to hormonal changes. In video number 358, we designated 4 breast hormones, 2 of which are pertinent to your breasts when you are not pregnant or breastfeeding. They are estrogen and progesterone. Here's the breast hormone chart we created in that tutorial. Well, you already know that your estrogen and progesterone change throughout your menstrual cycle. Do you remember this? It's my Play-Doh model of a menstrual cycle that you've seen many, many times. It demonstrates the fluctuations of estrogen and progesterone during the course of a single menstrual cycle. So estrogen is in pink, and you see that it is high in the first half of the menstrual cycle. And progesterone is multicolored, and you see that it is high in the second half of the menstrual cycle. Estrogen acts to cause the growth of the fibrous tissue and ducts of your breast. Progesterone acts to cause growth and development of the lobules of your breast. So estrogen acts on this, and progesterone acts on this. So estrogen increases the quantity of the fiber you have in your breast, while progesterone increases the quantity of glands you have in your breasts. And it turns out that cysts form from the glands, not the fiber. This makes sense when you consider the fact that the mammary glands in your breasts produce and secrete a liquid substance, milk. And as perfect as Mother Nature is, sometimes things don't quite go as smoothly as planned. And it just so happens that the fluctuating hormones of your menstrual cycles can sometimes cause a cyst to form. So the hormonal stimulation by progesterone, which is supposed to cause your mammary glands to grow and develop, sometimes causes a cyst to form in the process. So using our grape to represent a cyst makes perfect sense. It's sac-like, just like a cyst, and it's filled with a mostly liquid substance, just like most cysts. So if we add grapes to our breast salad, we get this. My props are falling apart as we speak, aren't they? I mean, that fat just doesn't want to stick. There are actually various salads that contain grapes, aren't there? So it's still in keeping with our breast salad theme. Here's a photo of a breast with cysts. The breast on the left is without any cysts, while the one on the right has 3 grape-like structures representing cysts. They look a lot like our grapes, don't they? This breast model here actually shows cysts in this dusky brown color here. Here and here. It's that attempt to show some cysts. So stimulation of the glandular component of your breast by progesterone causes cysts to form. When that happens, you notice that your breasts feel full, heavy, and tender. This is most prominent just before your period starts, when progesterone is at its highest, right here. That's when you associate full, tender breasts with premenstrual syndrome, or PMS. PMS is merely a result of this progesterone stimulation on your breast glands. So using grapes as our anatomical model is really perfect because grapes are lumpy but squishy. and so are fibrocystic breasts. Because fibrocystic breasts are due to hormonal fluctuations, they are more common in premenopausal women than they are in postmenopausal women. Premenopausal women have naturally fluctuating hormones, whereas postmenopausal women do not. And fibrocystic breasts are more common in women on any kind of cyclic hormone regimen than they are in any woman who has a continuous hormone regimen. Overall, between 30 and 75% of women have fibrocystic breasts at some time in their lives. This should not be surprising. Think about it. Your ovaries can also form cysts in response to your monthly hormonal fluctuations. That's because estrogen and progesterone play a role in the function of your ovaries, just as they play a role in the function of your breasts. Most ovarian cysts are actually called functional cysts and never amount to anything. They form in response to the action of estrogen and progesterone on your ovaries, and then they dissolve spontaneously when the cycle ends. Well, most breast cysts behave in the same way. They are cysts that form in your breasts as your breasts endure the cycle of hormones imposed by your menstrual cycle. So fibrocystic breasts are not unlikely or uncommon. Some people mistakenly try to make fibrocystic breasts into a disease by calling this fibrocystic breast disease instead of just fibrocystic breasts. It is not a disease. It's just an unpleasant temporary consequence of fluctuating hormones. So, there are dense breasts, and there are fibrocystic breasts. Can the two occur together in the same breast? Can a woman have both? Absolutely, and it is not uncommon for that to be just the case. But it is important to separate them for purposes of understanding their anatomical differences. Dense breasts mean that there's a lot of fiber. Fibrocystic breasts means that there are grapes in addition to the fiber. Just know that if you have dense breasts, fibrocystic breasts, or both, that you do not have a disease. I always like to dispel misinformation as I teach you the facts. So one thing you need to erase from your misinformation bank is that neither dense breasts nor fibrocystic breasts has anything to do with that insane term, estrogen dominance. While estrogen certainly makes your breast dense, that's completely normal. It does not mean you are estrogen dominant. Well, actually all women are estrogen dominant because we are mama bear. We're supposed to be estrogen dominant. Just don't fall for the so-called information sources that blame estrogen for fibrocystic breasts and label it a disease. Fibrocystic breasts are a result of progesterone, not estrogen, and it is not a disease. So your summary for today is this. Dense breasts contain a large proportion of fibrous tissue due to estrogen stimulation of your breasts. Fibrocystic breasts contain cysts that form in response to progesterone stimulation on the glands in your breast. Neither dense breasts nor fibrocystic breasts constitute a disease. Alrighty, I think that does it. Next week we'll discuss benign breast lesions. In the meantime, you can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, and Stories. And I urge you to subscribe to this channel and to my newsletter. If you want a consultation with me for anything at all, you can schedule it at menopausetailor.me. And I will see you ladies in a week. Bye.